Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy.
I'm Jason Gandhi.
And we are back today with another NBA What's Next. And today we will be covering the Toronto Raptors. So Jason, let's get right into it. The draft coming up this June. They have one draft pick at number 23. What do you think they should do with that?
So, I think you have one of two options. The way I look at it is you can either take the pick, but you've got to get a stretch four, or trade it. So if you're going to look at a stretch four, obviously you're getting Markkanen, but he's not going to be there at 23. So I think somebody like Harry Giles, who doesn't have the shot, but has seemed to be falling down some draft boards, or Ike Bogu, who would be there. And if you really need that stretch part of it, you could look for a Caleb Swanigan or a TJ Leaf if he falls. So definitely some options. Jordan Bell and his workouts has been expanding his range a little bit. Same thing with Yvonne Robb. So there's a lot of options in that four, but if they don't fall in love with any of them, I know the Raptors actually did work out Swanigan last week. So any of those options, but if you go through the draft process and you don't feel like any of those are your guys, I think you look to trade it. If you could package that pick with Jonas Valanciunas for either a player or future picks, I think that would be ideal for the Raptors.
Really, you think they should trade Jonas Valanciunas?
It sounds like he's going to be out when his contract expires. Everything that's kind of going around is that Valanciunas would be gone, that he's kind of already fading. I mean, you watch his minutes decline this year as the season went on, getting Ibaka and all them. So I think Jonas is kind of getting pushed out the door either way, so you might as well trade him.
He still has 2 more years on the deal, though, and I think he's still playing above what he's getting paid. I mean, next year he's getting $15.5 million, and then 2018-19 he'll be getting $16.5 million. They'll have a player option in 2019-20 for $17.5 million. So we'll see what they do with Valanciunas, but I think they should actually trade a different player along with the pick. I think DeMarre Carroll should go for the Raptors. He didn't really contribute much last season and has really not played up to what he did with the Hawks that earned him this big contract. And now he's on the wrong side of 30. I think DeMarre Carroll should really go. I mean, $14.8 million he's going to be making next year. That's not really ideal for someone who's contributing less than 10 points a game. And I think they should try to trade down maybe in the draft, maybe to get a small forward in the early second round, because there's really not a lot of good small forwards in the 23 range. And obviously they're going to need someone to replace DeMarre Carroll once he leaves with the trade that I think they should do. So I think a small forward in the early second round is really what they should do. If they do keep it, like Jason said, a couple of stretch fours. I like Harry Giles or Caleb Swanigan at 23.
I feel like 23 is high for Swanigan, but if they decide to trade back a little bit, it's a good fit late first round, early second. But TJ Leaf is a name I like. I don't know. It just really depends on what the Raptors like. Because once you get outside that top 20, it's really up to where you have what on your draft board. So it's really up to the Raptors. And if they decide to keep it, I think a 4 is where they got to go.
All right. Well, speaking of replacing some players, the Raptors have some questions in free agency. Kyle Lowry, with his contract going up this year. Serge Ibaka, too. Also Ibaka. But he is a free agent now, too. Patrick Patterson and P.J. Tucker. So the Raptors will have to work on re-signing those all. But who do you think they should take a look at in free agency besides them?
I think your priority's got to be Kyle Lowry. His win above replacement's obviously high. For who else you would get in free agency. Even if you get somebody like Jeff Teague or George Hill, it's not going to be the same as Kyle Lowry. So I think first and foremost, it's pretty obvious you look to re-sign Kyle Lowry. And if he decides to go somewhere else, now you've got a hole at the 1 where you could look at a Jeff Teague or George Hill. If he comes back, now you look at the 4, like we mentioned, or the 5. Some names at the 4, Nikola Mirotic and JaMychal Green are both restricted free agents, but if they don't, you could always offer to them. And then Derek Williams off of Cleveland, get him on a cheap deal after this year. Maybe just someone to kind of fill a quick need. At the center position, 3 guys I like. Nerlens Noel, a restricted free agent, but then on a cheaper scale, JaVale McGee or Dwayne Dedmon would be guys just to kind of fill that if Valanciunas does indeed get traded.
All right, I'm going to go with kind of my trade angle with DeMarre Carroll. I think some guys that they should look at if they do indeed trade Carroll. Obviously, get PJ Tucker back, who they traded for this season. Maybe Andre Roberson, James Johnson, Bogdanovich, Joe Ingles, Tony Snell, all guys that can kind of come in on a cheap contract and be able to contribute at that three position, which will leave a hole if DeMarre Carroll does indeed get traded. And if Kyle Lowry does leave, which obviously the Raptors, like Jason said, need to try to re-sign him, that is priority number one. But if he does want to leave, go chase some championships with the Spurs maybe, the Raptors could take a look at some other top-tier point guards such as Drew Holiday, George Hill, and Jeff Teague.
Yeah. So one thing I like that you said was Joe Ingles. Is he restricted or unrestricted? Do you know?
I believe he's restricted.
If they can get Joe Ingles, I think that's a beautiful fit because he's kind of a 3-and-D guy that DeMar and Kyle, who both don't shoot the three that well but are really good at driving and kicking. I like that Joe Ingles signing if they can make it happen.
Yeah, DeMar, I think, needs another wing that can shoot next to him. I said Bogdanovich, too. I think he'd be a good shooter to pair with DeMar DeRozan because he needs some space to create to get those mid-range shots going. He doesn't shoot the three well himself, so I think a small forward that can shoot would be better next to him, something that DeMar Carroll doesn't really bring to the Raptors right now.
All right, so let's move into my realistic trade that we both kind of mentioned. DeMar Carroll's actually in my trade, but you can go first if you want to go.
All right, so I talked about this earlier. Trading down to the early second round, I think the Raptors could trade 23 and DeMarre Carroll for 35 with the Magic. I think the Magic, DeMarre Carroll's not on a good contract, and he's really not playing too well above his pay. So I think that'd be a burden to go to any team, and I think the Magic have the cap space to do it. I think they get a higher pick too, and the Raptors can get a small forward to help replace Carroll in the early second round.
I feel like if I'm Orlando, I'm taking that deal as fast as I can. You get higher up in the draft, and you don't have to worry about filling a need at the three anymore. Because DeMarre Carroll's not like he's terrible. Like he can still start in the league. He just isn't playing at the money value, but they have the money to do it. So if I'm
but the Raptors are tight on money, and I think that's why they do it, so they can free up some space for Kyle Lowry and possibly to re-sign Serge Ibaka.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see it, but it's just if I'm Orlando, I'm jumping all over that because you can get a starting three in the league and get higher up in the draft. I don't know about trading that 23 if you're going to do it. Maybe Carroll for 35, I don't mind, but giving up a higher draft pick and DeMarre Carroll, I think is interesting. My trade also includes DeMarre Carroll, but this is what I have for it. It's between Toronto and Phoenix. I have pick 23, DeMarre Carroll, and Jonas Valanciunas for Eric Bledsoe in a 2019 top 5 protected first round. The Suns are guard heavy, really need a 3 since they traded PJ Tucker a while ago, and since Jared Dudley's getting older, they could use him at the 3, get rid of one of their guards. Maybe if Lonzo doesn't go to the Lakers, they can take him to really not have to worry about the guard spot anymore, or De'Aaron Fox. So it gives you now the opportunity to draft a guard in the draft while getting rid of Bledsoe and getting Valanciunas, a starting center. Carroll, who can either start or come off the bench, and a solid pick at 23.
I don't know how much the Raptors really benefit from that, though. If they re-sign Kyle Lowry, they have 2 good point guards, but that leaves a big hole at small forward and center for them.
I think the way the Raptors aren't in a win now situation because now you've got if you get DeRozan, who's locked up for 4 more years, and now Lowry, who'd be locked up for 5, you can wait. You can afford to wait a few years, use that 2019 first pick because you're not going to beat the Cavs and Celtics, especially if the Celtics get Markelle Fultz. You're not going to be able to beat either team, so you got to be able to just stay afloat, stay that 4th or 5th round. But now you've got a lottery pick most likely, and I think that's something that the Raptors would be interested in.
In 2 years, DeMar DeRozan will be 29, but Kyle Lowry will be 33 and kind of on the back half of his career, trending downwards.
That's what you have Bledsoe for. Bledsoe's pretty young.
Yeah, but I just think it leaves a little bit too many holes in the Raptors roster unless you think that they can fill those pretty easily in free
I think
agency.
I think you could convince people to come play with Eric Bledsoe, Kyle Lowry, and DeMar DeRozan, especially a big guy who would get fed a lot. I think you could get someone like Nerlens Noel if he doesn't get his offer matched, or someone like that for sure. I think you could get people to come.
All right, well, let's move into next season. One headline for the Raptors next season. What do you have, Jason?
Well, I was looking at the Raptors and I was thinking Drake. I gotta go a headline from Drake. So I went with his song "You With Me," going back to the whole Kyle Lowry and free agency, and how are you gonna come back with DeMar and try to build a franchise and really build it up, or are you gonna go somewhere else? But also looking at those two in the playoffs, are they gonna start showing up? Both have struggled in the playoffs these last 2 years. So my headline is "You With Me," the Drake song.
My headline is going to be overpay to underachieve. Will the Raptors overpay this offseason for Kyle Lowry when on the back half of his deal? When he's 36 years old, he'll be making upwards of $40 million, and to do all that just to underachieve in the playoffs again and lose to LeBron. We'll have to see what the Raptors do this offseason and how the season turns out. If they can not underachieve, not do bad in the playoffs, and make it to a conference finals or the NBA finals.
All right, so we're going into our daily top five. Dylan, who is your number 5 shooting guard in the NBA currently?
My number 5 shooting guard has to be CJ McCollum. Obviously, the 1-2 duo with him and Damian Lillard, a great combo. McCollum, a great shooting guard who's going to be around for a long time in this league, a pure scorer, and he does it all.
Yep, I'm going to go with the guy we just talked about, DeMar DeRozan at number 5. Really solid player, just hasn't shown up in the playoffs is why I have him at number 5.
Yeah, I have him at my number 4. Just can't shoot the 3 well, and like you said, doesn't show up in the playoffs.
I've got CJ McCollum at the 4. It's like you said, a lead scorer, will be in the league a long time, but has got to get some more pieces in there with him in Portland to do something big.
All right, my number 3 is going to be Jimmy Butler, the guy for the Bulls. You've seen him in a lot of trade rumors recently. Going to the Celtics, maybe. Do the Bulls build around him, or do they deal him for the Celtics and rebuild for the future?
I also have Jimmy Butler. If I'm the Bulls, I'd keep him. He's a guy that you can really build the franchise around. So Jimmy Butler comes in at my number 3. Dylan, who's your 2?
My 2 is going to be Klay Thompson, playing great right now for the Warriors. A great game on, what was it?
Sunday night.
Yeah. And he's a great shooter. Obviously doesn't get as many touches now with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, but still a great shooting guard that shoots the lights out for the Warriors.
I've also got Klay coming off a cold streak. So Klay comes in at number 2, and I'm assuming we both have James Harden at 1. Pretty obvious MVP candidate, best player, one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, even though he's truly a point guard, James Harden, number 1 shooting guard. He can play both positions. Does it really well, shoots the 3 well, and gets to the bucket.
There you go. That's our top 5. Make sure you tune in tomorrow as we have got a season preview for the Miami Dolphins. Also, on Friday, we will be having the finals recap of Game 3 as the Warriors look to go up 3-0, and LeBron tries to stop them from doing that. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please hit the subscribe button and you'll be able to get notified every day when we post our videos. Also follow us on Twitter at The Sports Sermon. We'll tweet out whenever we post a new video and whenever we write an article. And again, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really would mean a lot to us. So thank you for listening, and we will see you tomorrow talking about the Miami Dolphins.